All right, so our first problem for the review is we're going to look in and we're going to find out what f plus g of x is, which means I'm just going to add up the two functions. So that gives me 3x squared plus the square root of x minus 4. Okay? From there, I want to know what the domain is. So my domain is going to be all real numbers unless I see variables under even roots. Let's turn the light back off. There we go. All right. So I'm going to grab the argument, which is the stuff underneath the radical, and I'm going to set it greater than or equal to 0. And then I'm going to solve. So I get x is greater than or equal to 4. So in interval notation, I have 4 with a filled in circle shaded to the right. So my domain is going to be from 4 with a hard bracket to infinity with a soft bracket or parentheses. Okay, the next one on this one is going to be f over g of x, which is division. So that gives me 3x squared over the square root of x minus 4. So this time I've got variables in denominators, which means I need to be careful about my denominator going to 0. And I also have variables under even roots. So I'm going to take my argument and say greater than 0 because I don't want it to equal 0. Okay? Add 4 to both sides. So we're finding the domain right now, by the way. So my domain is going to be from 4, sorry about my dog in the background. Okay, so we're going to take my domain from a soft bracket of 4 up to infinity. Okay, so problem number 2 is going to be a fill in the blank. So we have f of x, we have g of x, and we have h of x. And give me a second. Sorry. So f of x is x to the 6th, and h of x is x plus 8 to the 6th. So I want to know what was nested inside of x to the 6th to give me x plus 8 to the 6th. So the answer as far as what was nested inside is I changed it from just an x to an x plus 8. So that's going to be an x plus 8. So we're going to try it again with the 4th root of x. And then that gives me a 4th root of x plus 6. So what was nested inside? Well, I went from just an x to an x plus 6 underneath that even radical. And so I changed it. I nested an x plus 6 on the inside. Okay, and the last one, this time we want to know what we started with before we did the nesting. So I've got an x plus 4 here and a 3 over x plus 4 to the 6th. Okay. So what was nested? The x plus 4 is nested. So what was here before was just a plain old x. So that gives me 3 over x to the 6th. Okay. That was problem number 2. So problem number 3 is we've got a negative 3x squared plus a 2x minus 5. And I want to find out what f of negative 3 is. So I'm going to put in or sub in a negative 3 everywhere that there's an x. Okay. So that gives me negative 3 times 9 minus 6 minus 5 is going to be a negative 27 minus 11, which is a negative 38. Okay, another one is going to be f of negative a. So if I've got f of negative a, that gives me a negative 3 times negative a squared plus 2 times negative a minus 5. So negative a squared is negative a times negative a, which gives me a squared. So that becomes negative 3a squared minus 2a minus 5. Another one would be a negative f of a. So this negative out front tells me to change the signs of everything in here. So I'm going to put a negative out front. And that's going to give me a negative 3a squared plus 2a minus 5. So I'm going to change the signs of everything. So that gives me a positive 3a squared minus a 2a plus 5. And then the last one for this problem is going to be an f of a plus h. So for f of a plus h, we have negative 3 times a plus h squared, and then I forgot the problem, plus 2 times a plus h minus 5. So remember that a plus h squared actually means a plus h times a plus h, so I'm going to FOIL that out. Don't change this into a squared plus h squared. Don't distribute that too. So I have an a squared plus a 2ah plus an h squared by the time I finish FOILing that out and combining like terms. This is going to be something you want to recognize from here on out. So I can go from an a plus h squared to a squared plus 2ah plus h squared. And that's going to make your life a lot easier in the future. Okay, so I've got a negative 3 times a squared plus 2ah plus h squared plus 2a plus 2h minus 5. And then I'm going to distribute that negative 3. So I get a negative 3a squared minus 6ah minus 3h squared plus 2a plus 2h minus 5. So our next problem is going to be problem number 4. So we have g of x is 7 minus x squared. And we want to simplify what's called the difference quotient. So we're going to simplify g of x plus h minus g of x all over h. Okay, so the first part, I'm going to ignore this, and I'm going to put in an x plus h wherever there's an x. So this will give me a 7 minus x plus h squared minus, now I'm going to take off the original function. So the original function is minus the quantity of 7 minus x squared all over h. So now we're back into seeing that I want to know what this x plus h squared is. So I'm going to use what I did before up here and just substitute a's for x's, or x's for a's. Okay, so this gives me a 7 minus x squared plus 2xh plus h squared minus 7 plus x squared all over h. And now I can distribute this negative. So I distributed this negative already, and I expanded this. Now I'm going to distribute this negative. So I have a 7 minus x squared minus 2xh minus h squared minus 7 plus x squared all over h. And from here, I'm going to combine like terms, so the 7's go and the x squareds go. Everything that's left has an h in it, and so I'm going to factor out an h. So that gives me negative 2x minus h all over h. And then any number divided by itself. Sorry, I forgot to silence my cell phone. Any number divided by itself is 1. So that gives me a negative 2x minus h. Okay? So we'll do a couple more for this video. So I have problem number 5. Gives me 4x squared minus 7x plus 2. And I want to know, first of all, what does this make if I graph it? So this makes a right side up parabola, like that. And then I know that it has a minimum because it bottoms out. Okay, so there's a minimum there because it bottoms out. So I want to find out, what do I know? First of all, this is A, this is B, and this is C. So I know that this has a minimum value because A is 4, which I don't really care that it's 4. I care that it's positive. So A equals 4 is greater than 0, which means it's positive. Okay? So the value of this minimum is going to be found if we find the vertex. So the vertex formula is negative b over 2a times negative f of b over 2a. So this is your x coordinate and this is your y coordinate. So negative b, you should recognize this from quadratic formula. It's just part of it, not the whole thing. So negative b is negative 7. So I get a vertex of 7 over 2 times 4, which is 7 over 8. So my x coordinate for my vertex is 7 over 8. So now I need to take that value and put it in for my function. So I have 4 times x squared, which is 7/8 squared, minus 7 times 7/8 plus 2. When I put this in my calculator, I get an answer of negative 17/16. Okay? So this is my vertex. So the value of my minimum is going to be negative 17/16. And then the axis of symmetry is going to be wherever I fold it to make it lay on top of itself. So I would fold that at x equals, well, what does x equal? X equals 7/8. So my axis of symmetry is x equals 7/8. So my value and my axis of symmetry. Okay, so I'm going to stop this video and we'll pick up with another one.